So, we did have ourselves some waiver wire action, and the Toronto Maple Leafs are at the center of it all. Take a look at this. They have claimed goaltender Primeau off of waivers from the Carolina Hurricanes, and they also claimed forward Sammy Blais off of waivers from the Montreal Canadiens. Now, this is kind of anticlimactic, thinking about the big news that was with Connor McDavid's deal. Seeing measly waiver claims before the NHL's regular season rosters were finalized is kind of a letdown, but we do have ourselves some conversations to have about these two players and the Toronto Maple Leafs being at the center of it all. Because when you think about the Leafs finalizing their open day roster submission, these guys are indeed a part of the fray. On the forward side, you have this selection of guys: Tavares, Waugh, Robertson, Michelli, Lorentz, Nyes, and then of course the brand new Sammy Blais was added onto the roster just a few hours ago. And then in net you have Primeau and Anthony Stolarz. That's it. With the departure, personal and indefinite, to Joseph Woll, the Maple Leafs kind of needed a goaltender, so they went out there and just grabbed the first available option that was on the waiver wire that happened to have some sort of a body of work. Say what you want about Primeau and his skill, he is really just a stopgap right now. I would honestly doubt that he even sees a game for the Toronto Maple Leafs before Joseph Woll comes back. I mean, Primeau has not really been all too great the past few years. Talk about what he did for the Montreal Canadiens over the past few years. I mean, .836 save percentage in 11 games played the most previous campaign. .470 goals against average. He was literally one of the worst, if not the worst, statistical goaltenders in the National Hockey League the most previous campaign. So, obviously, Toronto is not getting this guy because they think he's amazing. He's just there. And they kind of needed a guy. So that answers that. Now, as for Sammy Blais, this is a really interesting addition as well, because Blais has had kind of a history going from teams that I happen to like all the way here to Toronto. Initially a St. Louis Blues guy who found a very particular level of success with the Blues after making that team in 2020-2021. He had 15 points in 36 games played, which is fine. Not bad. He then gets sent over to New York, plays a little bit over there, before finding himself back in St. Louis, scoring 20 points in 31 games. That was just 2 seasons ago, and he was looking very underratedly good. He scored a bunch. He had under a point per game metric at the World Championships for Team Canada, but then he kind of fizzled away. 7 points, 53 games played with St. Louis the year after, and then in 2024-2025, he played the entire season in the American Hockey League. 40 points in 51 games played for the Abbotsford Canucks, right under a point per game in the playoffs. Sammy Blais was a very good player for the Abbotsford Canucks in their playoff run and their championship victory. I think a lot of folks that follow the Vancouver Canucks farm team and the Vancouver Canucks will appreciate what Blais was able to provide. There was some sort of a feeling last year that maybe Sammy Blais could be good enough to crack the Vancouver Canucks. Unfortunately, he did not, and he ended up just staying the entire season with Abbotsford. But after he had signed a 1-year, $775,000 contract with the Montreal Canadiens, we started to see some of the same conversations pop up with the Habs. Hey, Sammy Blais is actually not looking all too bad. He's interesting, he's physical, and he kind of plays a really specific way that you could debate whether or not it's actually valuable or not. He's an agitator, he's a physical forward, he likes to hit guys, and Montreal, you can debate that he could be useful in that role. Alas, the Canadiens sent him down on waivers yesterday, which a lot of Canadiens fans were saying, okay, kind of an interesting decision. Kapanen made the team, Blais didn't. You had Veleno, who was good, and he definitely should have made the team, so nobody's really complaining too much that Sammy Blais got sent down, but he did. And then he gets claimed by the Toronto Maple Leafs. So who knows what the Maple Leafs are having in store for this guy. I understand the Primeau claim. Sammy Blais is a little bit different. You think about some of the guys that are on the IR. They don't have Scott Laughton yet, so I guess If Sammy Blais is going to be the de facto Scott Laughton replacement, that makes sense in my mind. They both play kind of a similar game. You have physicality and body checking there. Also, it'd be nice to see Sammy Blais alongside of Dakota Joshua once again, because of course they were in the same organization last year, albeit not with the same franchise just in general. Also, you have to think about Sammy Blais and Dakota Joshua both being St. Louis Blues at some point. They're both Blues, and then they were both in the Canucks organization, and now they're both going to be in the Toronto Maple Leafs organization. Obviously, it's poetic for Joshua because he was drafted by the Maple Leafs all those years ago. Sammy Blais went from St. Louis to New York to St. Louis to Vancouver to Montreal all the way to Toronto. So, yeah, it's a pretty interesting conversation to have, I guess. If Sammy Blais ends up playing all the minutes that Scott Laughton would have played, then I guess that makes sense in my opinion to see that go down, but hey, it's the last few selections on the waiver wire that we were looking at here. Buffalo also ended up claiming Colton Ellis off waivers from St. Louis. But ultimately, I wanted to talk about this because Montreal losing out on Sammy Blais. Maybe some Canadiens fans will be upset that he's not able to tear it up in Laval because Blais was a very good AHL player last year. He would have been a really good addition for that Rocket squad. But now he's got to show off his chops because he's going to be back in the National Hockey League playing a full-time role, at the very least until Scott Laughton comes back. If Blais provides himself enough value and he's able to solidify his role in the lineup, then maybe there's a possibility he plays 50-plus games with Toronto. If he gets that opportunity and he runs with it, he goes and he scores some pretty big points, there could be a world where Sammy Blais is a full-time Maple Leaf for this upcoming campaign. An opportunity that he unfortunately did not really get in the Montreal Canadiens organization. So, yeah, Sammy Blais, good for him. He's finding himself another NHL home. Caden Primeau, same thing. I think you're really just going to be there as a stopgap till Wall comes back, really. But, hey, he's in the NHL. He'll be making NHL money, and he'll live to see another day in the Hockey League wherein he was the worst goaltender in it the previous campaign. So with all that said, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about these two Toronto Maple Leafs waiver claims. They are Sammy Blais from the Montreal Canadiens, Caden Primeau from the Carolina Hurricanes. It's kind of funny, honestly, to look at some of the replies. Oh, they want to be Montreal so badly. I fully expected Blais to be picked up as a 13th forward with how Berube is building and setting up his bottom six. Surprised Gustafsson wasn't taken for a third puck-moving D. But, yeah, no, that's the closest to McDavid Toronto's going to get. They saw that McDavid signed, and then they said, bet, we can get a better player on waivers. Can only imagine that Berube wants his guy back. So I guess that could be seen as the main factor here. It's Craig Berube, it's Sammy Blais, they've got experience playing for each other, so that makes sense, right? If you enjoyed this video at any point, feel free to hit the like button. If you did not, then hey, the dislike button is there for you. Comments help out with the algorithm, so I'd appreciate it if you got involved, and let us know what your thoughts were. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.